For the longest time, I've wished I could buy a watch that combines the excellent multi-day battery life, robust intentional design, and super accurate fitness and health tracking of my Garmin Fenix 7 Solar Sapphire, with the smartwatch functionality, bright OLED display, and zippy performance of a modern Android smartwatch. And the OnePlus Watch 2 kinda does that. Almost. Let's talk about that. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and what is going on with OnePlus at the moment? I mean, the Open is one of the best foldables you can buy right now, being my pick over the Pixel Fold and Z Fold 5 thanks to its unique features and killer design. After hitting some stumbling blocks with the 9 and the 10, they made the 12 one of the best Android devices out there, easily able to compete with the competition for my pick for best Android phone right now. And then with the original OnePlus Watch kind of flopping, they came back with this, the Watch 2, which feels like a completely different echelon of quality. It's like the company has completely turned a corner with its products and what you can expect from them. So after 3 months since its release, and with the Galaxy Watch 7 and Pixel Watch 3 coming up in the second half of 2024, is the OnePlus Watch 2 still able to impress with updates and improvements, or has it fallen short of what prospective smartwatch buyers really want? Well, I first want to touch on what I alluded to at the top of the video. The Watch 2 combines several aspects of my favourite fitness watch at the moment, and my favourite smartwatches as well. The dual processor and dual OS system for Google's software for the smartwatchy stuff and OnePlus's low power package works in tandem to give you 2 to 4 days on a charge with this watch, which is a considerable jump from the 1 to 2 days of the Pixel Watch 2 and Galaxy Watch 6 Classic. I like the fact that I only really have to charge this watch once or twice a week, and I think the OnePlus Watch 2's low power draw might be its best asset, especially when you consider that when you do need to top it up, the included 10-watt charging puck that it connects to via the pins has a USB-C port on it, so you could use whichever cable you want. Do you need an extra long cable to run behind the cabinet? No problem. Need to swap C to C for a C to A? Have at it. Compared to the annoying fixed cables on most smartwatch chargers and even my Garmin Wire, this is an underrated feature and one I actually love. And the hardware on offer here is also more like my Garmin than the more petite and smartwatchy looking smartwatches. There's been some speculation online that the right aligned design could have been done to reflect OnePlus's own smartphones, i.e. the 12. Whichever side of the fence you sit on regarding this, I think it looks fantastic, though it does house a couple of confusing buttons, because yes, they are buttons. The bottom one is a standard presser and the top one has a rotating crown that doesn't actually do anything. It's also just a presser. It has the resistance like you would expect a crown to do, but it doesn't do anything in the software. So for swiping through menus, you are genuinely going to have to put your finger on the screen instead of keeping them off and using a nice satisfying dial, which is a shame. It also makes operating, say, the fitness tracking menus when you have gloves on or out in the rain a little more tricky, because of course you don't have a solid movable crown, but it is what it is, I guess. And it's kind of a shame because the rest of the build is really solid. The metal and glass build feels super high end. The included band, this one being the green version to sort of match the OnePlus Open, hasn't given me any of the skin reactive issues that pretty much every other band of a similar material has done for me in the past. And the sensors on the bottom also don't dig into my wrist like those from the pebble-shaped Pixel Watch 2 do. And the Watch 2's 1.43-inch 60Hz OLED display looks and operates really nicely. Does it have the smallest bezels or the highest brightness? No, it doesn't, but it does do a fantastic job even out in direct sunlight, making it viewable even in this super sunny week or so we're having here in the UK. It's quick and responsive thanks to the fast W5 chip and the 2GB of RAM. The latter is pretty much a requirement for smooth operation in Wear OS, which is great to see, and the 32GB of onboard storage seems to do its job pretty well as well. Speaking of that software, Wear OS 4 here with the Oxygen OS Watch 6.0 skin atop it makes for a pretty solid all-round experience. There aren't heaps of watch faces by default, even on the latest software, and those that are there are a little samey, though they are customizable. You can use the O Health app to control the watch and download further watch faces should you want to, and I've done that here. In fact, OHealth is the hub for all the information on your watch too, such as the health and fitness stuff that you might expect given the name of the app, but also watch settings like display options, weather measurement units, and a pretty comprehensive notification management menu to tailor the experience to just how you want it. Since launch, the company has delivered an update to the watch that offers a few improvements, namely you can now control music during a workout by swiping in on the activity screen. There are two new apps called Relax and Barometer, which are nice to haves and in my opinion don't add a huge amount of value, and you can now turn off tap to wake if you really want to in the settings menu. Are these things a big deal? No, and I hope to see that in the next 2 years of software updates, which they do promise, we do see some more meaningful and substantial software updates, maybe some more interesting watch faces, for example. One thing I haven't seen many people talk about, and it does get on my nerves, and it could just be a personal thing, but it happens with a lot of smartwatches, is the band is shaped to the watch, meaning that one, it can't lay flat on a surface, which I guess isn't much of a problem, but they also have to sort of bend in a very particular way around your wrist. There is no pivot on the fitting. Compare this to my Garmin, for example, and you'll see that there is a pivot point so that the strap has a lot more wiggle room and thus is more comfortable for more people, especially with different sized wrists. Thankfully, the Watch 2 does work for me, and it seems like it fits a lot of people too, but your mileage may certainly vary because that is a fixed sort of shape to it. Which brings us nicely into the main pain point I have with this smartwatch, and that's the fitness tracking. Look, I'm by no means an athlete, but I have become very used to the fantastic world-class fitness tracking capabilities of my Garmin Fenix 7. OnePlus claims this watch has unparalleled precision with its dual frequency GPS system, which is a bold pitch. In reality, it does get pretty close to the Garmin in its GPS tracking and even the heart rate metrics too, but the reason I wouldn't switch to this is simply that it doesn't seem as reliable as my Garmin for fitness tracking, and it doesn't capture nearly as much data. But the stuff that it does track is presented in a fairly intuitive way on the OHealth app. If you're not super serious about that stuff and just want a solid walk and run tracker, the Watch 2 is decent. It's just not elite. There is a very slight issue that I think more people will notice though. See, if you have the raise to wake feature enabled and you pull your watch up, you'll notice the transition from low power state to the main chip, and you see that watch almost switch gears, which can take, a split second. This is more noticeable with notifications, and if you want a watch that feels seamless in its operation, maybe the OnePlus Watch 2 isn't for you. Don't get me wrong, I think this less than perfect transition is a worthy compromise for the oodles of extra battery life that you get. And for the $299 asking price that OnePlus wants, you shouldn't be expecting the perfect smartwatch. That's some pretty aggressive pricing, but it gets even more impressive when you factor in the $50 trade-in for seemingly any watch, and right now you can get a free pair of OnePlus Buds 3 when you buy the Watch 2, which is just bonkers value for money. I've been searching for a smartwatch that can do as much of the smartwatchy stuff as possible, but that also takes the best bits of the Garmin. And it kind of feels like OnePlus was aiming for that with the Watch 2, with its fantastic battery life, terrific smart capabilities, and great display. It does do the battery life and charging aspects the best of any smartwatch I've ever used, and that includes the newer TicWatches in my opinion. And it does at least do that fitness tracking stuff that the average person is likely looking for. Look, despite its pitfalls, the shaped strap, the less than 100% tracking, the dial that doesn't do anything, and the slight hiccup to boot into top gear, it's probably my new favorite Android smartwatch, and that's not something I was expecting coming into this long-term review. What do you think of the OnePlus Watch 2? Would you buy one of these, or are you more comfortable going with something from Google or Samsung, or Garmin, or anyone else? Let me know in the comments. And while you're down there in the comments, feel free to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content and never want to miss another upload. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.